Real questions, real answers for real life. Come on in and pull up a chair. You're at 1850 Main Street with Michael DelGiorno and David Zanotti.
So nobody won at Fox's second Republican presidential debate. But who was the biggest loser?
So let's just get our arms around something right now about this last debate. Let's pretend that you were sitting in the at the White House and you were watching the Bidens and their strategy team watch the debate. Or let's pretend we were sitting wherever the New York Times people and the Washington Post people sit and they were watching it. All right. What do you think the response was with the White House strategy team watching this debate?
It was a dream night. Couldn't have gone better for him. Couldn't have had a more profound missed opportunity. You know, anytime they were turning on each other rather than the failed policies, the failed economy, the failed border for us and our families and our future, the better. I mean, it was I can't remember who sang it now. Free Ride. Was that Foghat? Who was that? Free. I mean, they just got an absolute free ride.
Have you ever seen a group of people as accomplished as that group of people? Every one of those people is extraordinarily accomplished. We're talking about governors and senators. And I mean, these are people that have done lots of
secretaries of state.
Yeah. Ambassadors to the United Nations. I mean, these are you put that combined resume together, you got a whole cabinet.
Sure. All
right. This is a high quality, accomplished group of people. Have you ever seen a group of people fall apart to that level of juvenile behavior in public with millions of people watching? I never have.
There's no question that Fox, incited it and facilitated it, and they fell for it. And that's where I come back to motive that is revealed. If you really are about the voters out there, you don't get sucked in. If you really are about your party, you don't get sucked in. Only if your eyes are completely on yourself and where you stand in the polls. I think it revealed a lot about themselves. And that's what we need. I have often said this, and it falls on deaf ears. Where are the statesmen? And I don't mean this in terms of gender. I'll say it twice if that makes it correct. But, where are the statesmen and stateswomen of today?
Sure.
They don't exist. They revealed they're a bunch of politicians focused on themselves. And because of that, the party was hurt, the republic was hurt, and the voters were giving nothing but doubts. But the enemies were given a free ride, absolute free ride.
Let's go back to WAPO and the New York Times. So now we're sitting in their editorial board groups that are watching this thing. Let's say, I mean, I would think this was some of the most entertaining television they've ever seen. I don't know if they had drinking games going on, but I can hear the raucous laughter coming out from under the door of these rooms where these people are meeting, watching this stuff, thinking, I don't know where you begin to write. When you read the articles that popped up over the next, from this debate, what you end up with is a situation. I don't know that they had enough tools at their disposal with all their media savvy to be able to communicate the glee that they felt with what they witnessed. And then here's the question. So is there some controlling authority inside the Republican mechanism, the Republican Party's mechanism, that brings these people in a room and says, we're not doing this anymore? Where is the coach? Where is the head coach? Where is anybody? Is this nothing but blind power grabs with billionaires in the orchestrating things from behind the scenes?
I think what it reveals is the lack of unity within the party, and it just demonstrates in this setting. So,
but hang on a second. No. Wait, whoa. These people all agree. There's almost nothing that they disagree on. Maybe moderately they disagree on Ukraine, but across every other policy solution, they're like the same record. Where's the disunity?
But that isn't the case they're trying to make. The case they're trying to make is put me. At the end of the day, Mike Pence wants to be president more than he wants America to see the long form direction that needs to be taken by the country for the good of themselves. And I could say that for each and every candidate.
So is the disunity just about personalities?
Absolutely. Well, hello. That's why we don't have statesmanship anymore. Once you have politicians and self-interests, that all goes out the window. Look, I view it like a good court trial. There's a process to it, from opening statement to witnesses to evidence to key moments. But the long process is, follow me on this,
Sure.
This guy needs to be fired. This guy is guilty of this outcome. And you're walking through the process. What you find are these candidates on stage in every moment trying to get the verdict to be for them. Whereas it should be about a long process over many debates, over a year and 2 months of slowly guiding the American people to what is right, what is necessary, and what must change. And because they're focused on self, they can't do that. They don't enter that stage with the enemy is the results of failed policies of a particular party. Let's make that case, and then let's just trust no matter who they pick out of us, that's the direction we're going to go in. That's why when I keep saying over and over again, they don't care about their party. They damaged their party last night. They don't care about me, my wife, my children, our future, what it's costing me at the pump, the grocery store, my future. They don't care about any of that. They cared about themselves, and it was revealed. And if that's your focus going in, you and I would go in a room, I'll give you an example, and, we would be true to our character and our integrity. And then, one thing you can count on is nobody is going to trick us into turning on each other. But that's not how it is with them.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I did see moments. I know you don't particularly care for him. I don't think he has a chance of being anything other than, they won't allow him to direct the conversation. But Ramaswamy was trying to play the lane of unity. I know you don't think it was authentic.
Well, no, I'm smart enough to see through passive aggressive nonsense.
I get it. And Christie, I think, authentically didn't. So I think Christie's the only one that's not guilty.
It's one thing we'll say about Christie is he's not passive aggressive.
No,
he's just aggressive.
No, he was definitely the big winner. But he's very much about self too. Everything comes back to New Jersey. Everything comes back to what he did in a blue state, and only he can do it in a country that's mostly blue and all that. They're all guilty of that. And Donald Trump, by the way, is the most guilty of self.
And they're also guilty of something that we can amplify. Every one of them lies about when I'm president, I will X, Y, and Z. They all overpromise. They all lie. They all know better. They all know the republic doesn't work that way. They all know you can't just wave a magic wand. When I am president, we will this, and I am president, we will that, and blah, 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 blah. If you don't have Congress with you when you're president, you're not going to do much. Now, there are some things you can do by executive order that you shouldn't, but presidents are doing anyhow. And there's no question when it comes to national defense and appointment of Supreme Court justices, the president goes first. I get that. The commander-in-chief has a role. Most of everything else they talk about in regards to policy is wishful thinking at best. It's symbolism at best. It's insulting to the world. Now, my problem is, what on earth do you think that world leaders, and particularly those who hate America, were thinking watching this clown show? Why take America seriously?
I think I have two scary thoughts. One, for the aggressors out there, you aren't nudged along to attack. You aren't nudged along to invade a neighboring country, whether it's Taiwan, Ukraine, or Poland after that. What you are nudged along with is, if we just buy time, they will destroy themselves. And they're getting closer and closer.
By the hour.
By the hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, that much is, they're still where we want them, self-destructing. All right. That's a bad truth that could be a long conversation.
No, that's hard. It's hard. I just need to let me take a breath on that, because what you just said is so powerful and so frightening, but I actually think it's so true.
Oh, and where's Benjamin Franklin right now, flying a kite in heaven, saying it's a republic if you can keep it. How did he know that 250 years ago? How did he know this would be our demise?
Well, let me go back to Reagan for a second. How would you compare what you saw compared to the life and career of Ronald Reagan?
Well, time is an enemy. Ancient humans were very dutiful through scribes or through oral passing along. We're less and less good at that as families, right? My grandfather used to sit around and talk about our lineage and previous grandfathers and great-grandfathers and sacrifices that were made for the good of those they would never see. We're not good at that, America. What it struck me was Reagan. I always said the Reagan Revolution was far more impactful than even Reagan himself. We glorify him in death. It was not the rosiest of 8 years. It wasn't even economically. There were a lot of policy inconsistencies. But as a transforming figure,
yes.
I mean, I think Reagan, Kennedy, I think the world tried to do this with FDR, but I don't think it really happened. I mean, I think you start getting into Washington, Lincoln, Reagan, Kennedy. These are very, very significant figures. In fact, if you wanted to put another one in there, it might be Barack Obama, although I think it went for the wrong influence and direction.
100%, 100 miles in the wrong direction, but as far as influence,
transforming
moving the dial,
figures.
Yeah. Well,
it shows
and he
me
called that from the start.
It shows me that enough time has passed, enough compromise has occurred that the Reagan Revolution no longer exists.
It's a memory and it's rhetoric.
When you subscribe to 1850 Main Street, you're the first to find out what's happening next with new guests, publications, and events. And when you spread the word about 1850 Main Street, you're helping others find real answers to the real questions facing America right now. To learn more, visit 1850mainstreet.com. And please, tell a friend.
Now, I'm going to go another place. Again, I'm betting. I didn't even text this to you in prior conversations because I'm actually afraid to say it out loud, but I got to say it out loud. One of the things that is incredibly damaging right now for anyone running for the presidency is the fact that there's no movie stars out there. And America really wants a movie star. You know, I looked at Ron DeSantis. I looked at his resume. I listened to his positions. And I said to myself, Ron DeSantis has two problems. One, he's not good looking enough. And two, he doesn't have a great voice. That's why he's not winning this election. You put Ron DeSantis' positions and his accomplishments in a package that looks like Reagan.
Or Mitt Romney.
And guess what happens?
Or even Mitt Romney.
Yeah. And guess what happens? He's clearly.
President of the United States, yeah.
Now, wait a second. Do you realize what we just said?
Well, there are sad realities, they exist.
And so so everybody else is an SNL skit until somebody comes out of central casting. And until somebody comes out of central casting, there's not going to be a president. Is that what this really comes down to?
I don't know why. I have a more frightening thought. What if, and I think it could be coming, I don't know, the Republicans are doing such an awful job. You may get Biden, period. Yeah. I think the switch at the convention may be the VP because they're setting up the inevitability of him not making it the 4 years.
It's a default situation, right? It's weekend at Bernie's, but we know what we got.
Well, yeah. I mean, they may not need to do it, but I would tell you this, Gavin Newsom might look like a movie star compared to these guys.
But he's still got to be able to talk. That's the other thing.
Well, yeah.
And because Gavin Newsom is in great shape until he starts talking.
I'm still thinking about what I think the most profound thing you said was, and that is they're all ignoring the elephant in the room, the way our founding fathers set this government up. Congress is what matters.
Yeah.
So it is a
did you hear Congress mentioned
No,
once?
not once. And it's a false promise that any candidate, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're an independent, I don't care if you're a Republican, elect me, I'll fix everything. You can't say that. You don't have that authority. You don't have that power. Unless you plan to do the rogue things that got us into this mess, you have to deal with Congress. This is the most silent thing. And I think everyone's guilty of this. Heck, you and I better start doing a better job of it when we're talking. And that is, if you want to talk about the most significant, powerful, reality relationships in American governing, not political, governing history, it's not Ronald Reagan as president. It's Ronald Reagan as president working with Speaker Tip O'Neill. Or how about this, David? Everybody likes to despise him. Bill Clinton working with your favorite, Newt Gingrich. Those two relationships.
Hang on, in case anybody overhears that, that's my favorite in parentheses. My least favorite.
I know you don't like
Gingrich.
him.
Okay.
But America will look back and go, we owe Washington. We owe Lincoln. We owe FDR. We owe Truman. We owe that. We owe Reagan. We owe this. We owe that. No. The two most powerful, productive, the real solution in this room on fire, is to model the relationship of Reagan and Tip O'Neill in a country that was just as divided then, in two individuals that had nothing in common as much as the two parties don't have anything in common today, and Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. That's what we need. That was completely absent in the room.
That is so profound. That's how far from reality what Fox did and what these people fell into. Okay, now, unfair question, but I got to know. Magic wand time. I love the magic wand times. You get the magic wand. You get to create one instance in the debate that you literally right now could rewrite, rescript, and actually it would have happened. What would you, with a magic wand, wished you could have seen in that debate? I mean, it can be hilarious. I don't care what it is. What is it?
The fly to reappear on Pence's head.
Man, in a digital world, that white hair is tough, isn't it?
Oh, there were so many questions that the American people needed. That's the actual conversation that needs to be happen. There are sins. I don't want to use the default biblical analogy, but there are sins of omission and sins of commission. We can go through, and most people will. New York Times certainly did go through the sins of commission, from Fox to the candidates. It's the sins of omission that are really breathtaking last night. The things that people needed to hear and never heard. The questions that needed to be asked and were never asked. From healthcare to Social Security. It was talking points and beating on the border, beating on the economy, but in no way really laying out, this party is the problem and this party is the solution. I left the night convinced what I already knew when the night began. Ronald Reagan said it this way, government isn't the solution, it's the problem. I think what America hopefully took away was both these parties are the problem. And the solution cannot come from one of them.
All right, I'm waving my magic wand.
All right, yeah, you obviously set it out. You got the better one. I want the fly on Pence's head.
Oh, that was good. That was good. My magic wand on this would be that I'm torn between two things. One, I'm torn between Gene the dancing machine.
Just come out in the middle and just go across the stage.
Come out right on the stage. I think the entire audience would have been right there with him. But the other thing, if I could have the one I really wanted, would have been that one of these people, I don't care which one of them, one of these people about, 15, 20 minutes in,
leave
after the first break, would literally have said, this is absurd and unworthy of an American public debate, let alone the presidency, and walked off the stage. That's my magic wand.
Sadly. Well, no, my magic wand would be make them all go away. No, I think if I have any takeaway, it was definitely, and it could have been Fox's too, but it was definitely Christie's goal to smoke Trump out of hiding. Now, Trump's ego is big enough to be sucked out and smoked out and enter. I don't think he's going to fall for that. It's this bad and obvious. But I wouldn't be shocked if the next debate, Trump on the same night has a rally somewhere. And that'll be the next thing. We'll have more people watch that rally than the debate, and rightfully so.
Closing question for me is this. Will the Republicans learn anything when it comes time to actually, when they do finally get a candidate? Will they permit the Presidential Debate Commission to continue on in the same tradition of the Gong Show? Because it's really not much difference with the Presidential Commission either. So will there finally be a blowback from political candidates, campaigns, and the parties and the people of this country to say, we're done with this nonsense? There's just no more.
That's very revealing and rhetorical in and of itself, because, if we said big losers, the Republican image. I mean, right now, the establishment Republican, the party itself, ought to be disgusted with how that played. I mean, you and I would look at each other and go, Kristi Noem running her ads, smarter. Donald Trump not being there, smarter. It was a disaster for the Republican Party. So if let's use a football analogy, if we're in the defensive, meeting rooms, all right, yeah, there's the performance of the players that failed, and that's why we lost the game. But at some point, the coaching staffs in these rooms have to take charge of the team. I mean, if Deion Sanders was the coach of the Republican Party, somebody needs to have that inspirational meeting. With lost in all that, Fox, big loser. Probably Scott, maybe the next big loser. Pence, you can't lose what you don't have. But no, that's lost in all this. The Republican Party itself is really the big loser in this, aren't they? I mean, right now, Donald Trump, who is not seen as a Republican, he is a rogue change agent, really has the monopoly on this. You want to talk about if Fox is irrelevant, you're right. The only thing more irrelevant than Fox is the Republican Party. They are the big loser. How is it I didn't even realize that till right now. That was a disaster. And guess what? There's another one planned.
This conversation isn't over yet, so come on back next time and pull up a chair at 1850 Main Street. To help spread the word, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To find out more, visit 1850mainstreet.com. We'll see you soon.